The Season 1 finale of Dutton Ranch could change everything. Episode 8 ended with Waqin making the biggest decision of his life, after Sheriff Wade refused to arrest Rob Will, because there simply wasn't enough evidence. With nowhere left to turn, Waqin picked up the phone and called Mariano. And judging by the Episode 9 trailer, that single phone call could spark an all-out war. A massive gunfight, shocking betrayals, and possibly the death of one of the show's biggest characters all seem to be on the horizon. So who survives? Who dies? And is Mariano the real mastermind behind everything? Let's break it all down. Episode 8 left Waqin completely trapped. He did everything he could to expose Rob Will and finally bring him to justice. He went straight to Sheriff Wade hoping the law would step in, but the sheriff made it clear that without a body, without witnesses, and without hard evidence, there was simply no case. That moment changed everything. Realizing he couldn't rely on the law anymore, Waqin turned to the only person powerful enough to change the situation, Mariano. But calling Mariano may end up being the most dangerous decision of his life, because once Mariano gets involved, things rarely end peacefully. At the same time, Rip has finally started connecting all the pieces together. One of the biggest moments in the Episode 9 trailer is when Rip confronts Rob Will and asks him, "You running drugs?" That single question tells us Rip has realized this story is much bigger than stolen cattle or forged paperwork. The infected bulls, fake documents, missing livestock, and suspicious shipments all point toward a much larger criminal operation. Rip isn't the type of man who gives up once he starts asking questions. The deeper he digs, the closer he gets to uncovering the truth, and that makes him one of the biggest threats Mariano has ever faced. Beth is also beginning to understand that the situation goes much deeper than anyone imagined. In another emotional scene from the trailer, she tells Bula, "You were in a hole, and so was I." At first, it sounds like Beth is simply trying to relate to Bula, but I think there's much more behind that conversation. It almost feels like Bula is admitting she has been trapped in this dangerous world for years. Maybe she never had as much control as everyone believed. Maybe she has been forced to follow Mariano's orders all along. If that's true, then Rob Will may not actually be the real leader of this operation. He may simply be another pawn, being used by someone far more powerful. That brings us to Mariano himself. The Episode 9 trailer finally shows him returning to the ranch, and one line immediately stands out. He says, "Send your strangers packing, or I will." Those strangers are almost certainly Beth and Rip. By now, Mariano probably knows they've started asking questions. He knows Rip confronted Rob Will, and he likely understands they're getting dangerously close to exposing the illegal operation. If that's the case, Mariano won't waste any time. Instead of hiding in the shadows, he may decide it's time to eliminate anyone standing in his way before the truth comes out. Everything in the trailer points toward one unavoidable conclusion: a war is coming. I don't think Episode 9 will focus on investigations or courtroom drama. Instead, I believe we're heading toward a full-scale battle at the ranch. The trailer shows armed men, explosions, tense standoffs, and several action-packed moments that suggest nobody will be safe. Rip, Beth, Carter, Zachariah, Azul, and the rest of the ranch hands may have no choice but to defend their home against Mariano's men. It could become one of the biggest action sequences we've seen all season. One character I'm especially interested in is Carter. Throughout the season, he has struggled to prove himself, often questioning where he belongs. But finales usually give younger characters a defining moment, and I think this could finally be Carter's chance to step up. Whether he saves Rip, protects Beth, or stands beside the Dutton crew during the final battle, Episode 9 could completely change how fans see his character moving forward. Now let's talk about the biggest question everyone is asking: what happens to Rob Will? Throughout Season 1, he's made mistake after mistake. He killed Wes, manipulated the people around him, betrayed his own family, and created problems that continue getting worse. Even if Mariano once trusted him, Rob Will has become far too reckless. He's attracted too much attention, and that's exactly the kind of mistake powerful criminals don't forgive. Because of that, I think there are only two realistic endings for Rob Will. The first possibility is that Sheriff Wade finally gathers enough evidence to arrest him after the truth begins coming out. While that's certainly possible, I don't think it's the ending the writers are building toward. The second possibility feels much more likely. I believe Rob Will dies before the season ends. But here's the interesting part. I don't think Rip will be the one who kills him. Rip may fight him, but someone much closer to Rob Will could ultimately end his story. The first possibility is Mariano himself. If Mariano believes Rob Will has become too dangerous and is attracting unwanted attention, he may decide eliminating him is the only way to protect the larger operation. Powerful crime bosses often sacrifice their own people to save themselves, and Mariano could easily make that choice. The second possibility is Waqin. After everything Rob Will has done to him over the years, the betrayal, the manipulation, and the violence, Waqin may finally reach his breaking point. Either of those outcomes would be far more emotional and meaningful than simply watching Rip defeat Rob Will in a fight. There's also one heartbreaking scene in the trailer, where Oriana is crying uncontrollably. We don't know exactly what causes that emotional moment, but if Rob Will dies during the finale, her reaction would make perfect sense. No matter what terrible decisions he made, he is still her father. Losing him would be devastating, and that emotional scene could become one of the most memorable moments of the entire season. Even if Rob Will dies, I don't believe the story ends there. In fact, I think his death would simply mark the beginning of something much bigger. Throughout Season 1, Rob Will has acted like the main villain, but I don't think he was ever the true mastermind. Mariano feels like the person who has been controlling everything from the shadows. If he survives the finale, then Season 2 becomes much more exciting. Instead of Beth and Rip fighting one reckless ranch manager, they'll be facing an organized criminal empire led by Mariano himself. My prediction is simple. Rob Will doesn't survive the Season 1 finale. Mariano escapes and becomes the new primary villain. Beth and Rip survive the battle, but discover that defeating one enemy only leads them into an even bigger war. The illegal operation isn't completely destroyed, and the fight is far from over. That ending would perfectly set up Season 2, while giving fans an unforgettable finale. But that's just my prediction. What do you think will happen? Is Mariano really the mastermind behind everything? Will Rob Will end up behind bars, or will he die before the credits roll? And who do you think wins the final battle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest Dutton Ranch updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.